so highest level of the country. So this can really focus attention on this important issue. So climate change, it will affect 5 domains related to human beings. That is food, we already know, water, we have talked about, energy, shelter, and health. So we also know that food security, if food is affected, food security is affected. So food security has many components. For example, food availability, number 1, that relates to our production ability. And secondly, food accessibility, economics comes in the picture. Then food utilization and stability. So all of these components will be affected. So we have to do something within these components and within this framework. So one thing is that we are neglecting is climate is changing simultaneously with an increase in population. So our population is increasing. I believe in the world, in India, population is increasing about 15 million per year. So overall world population, will be 9 billion by 2050, and this would put tremendous pressure on our already stressed resources. So we can leave for the time being population problem or issue aside. So just simply concentrate on the climate and climate change. First biggest thing that I have seen is the admission that there is climate change and there are certain effects of climate change. There was an argument at one point, a debate, that there was no global warming, there was no such thing. So they say if a patient goes to a doctor and he recognizes there is a problem, half the problem is already solved. So the medicine will come later. That will be solving the remaining problem. So we have recognized that climate is changing and there are certain things associated with the climate change. I just want to point out, I get this thing from the National Academies of Sciences of the United States, and they do some studies from time to time. This one is the latest one. It's a rough draft I have downloaded from their website, and this is about monitoring climate change impacts. Metrics at the intersection of the human and earth systems. So they had appointed a committee on indicators for understanding global climate change, National Research Council. So this is about a 100-page report, but what they have done is they have segmented this into 5, 6, or 7 different areas. One is what metrics are to be used. I'm a plant breeder geneticist, so we do a lot of selection of varieties and all of that. And we work with selection criteria. Sometimes if we have a bad selection criteria, we will not succeed. So we have to have the best selection criterion. So similarly, which metric is to be used? I think they have outlined, they have classified, for example, low climate, moderate environment sustainability, high climate, high environment sustainability. They have categorized these metrics, I'd say criteria. So there's a lot of information in this. So they oceanography, cryosphere, and land surface and terrestrial ecosystems, atmosphere, hydrology, natural disasters, human health. So within each one of those, they have several pages of these metrics. So I think this is one of the things where we have to focus on which metrics are the best for us and what they would do for us. So this morning we were talking about climate resilient agriculture, and first thing we have to do, because we know what we have to do is we have to develop new varieties of crops. And it takes 10 years, minimum of 8 to 10 years to develop a new variety. So which means variety we start developing today will be in the fields 10 years from now. So we have to know what the weather would be, what the climate would be 10 years hence. Therefore, our prediction or predictability, prediction of the environment and the climate must be accurate. So we must improve our ability to predict environment, climate in the future. And we will achieve climate resilient agriculture when we have developed actually drought tolerant varieties in a systematic manner. We may run into a variety or two by chance that is drought tolerant or heat tolerant because there is global warming, temperatures are increasing. Every year we see that. And so we have to have short season varieties that will take less water and they will use less resources. And also varieties that would not overexploit our natural resources, for example, our water. So we would also need to pay attention to Honorable Minister just mentioned about overuse of pesticides. So I would say that now there is a term that comes to mind, that's precision agriculture. Use of computers in agriculture and on the actual farm. So precision agriculture would take center stage. It is relatively new. However, there is tremendous progress being made. Punjab Agriculture University will hold a international conference on precision agriculture at the end of February, early March. So this is an important area. So we should concentrate on such technologies and such issues. We are also Professor Swaminathan knows about our other conference, which is preparing agriculture for climate change. Because there are a lot of forums, as I said before, where climate change has been discussed. However, specifically focusing on preparing agriculture for climate change. Here we have different areas identified, because agriculture is such a thing, it causes climate change and it is affected by climate change. So this is a double whammy. So it's a circular thing. So we have to, in order to get out of any circular thing, we have to put something new into it. And new would be to come up with new ideas, new strategies. And for example, we had, when I first joined this Punjab Agriculture University as Vice Chancellor in 2007, the first thing we noticed was that there was a problem of water depletion. Underground water had been depleted tremendously. So dangerously low levels. So we organized an international conference on water management strategies. And Professor Swaminathan wrote the foreword for that, and the book has just come out. So we need to develop strategies. And similarly, we need to develop strategies for climate change, how to combat climate change. And finally, because I think I saw grassroots, the word grassroots used here. So our grassroots would be, I think, our schools, our children. So we have to make changes in our curriculum. So climate change, agrometeorology, and climatology, these should be essential subjects in agriculture. And it must be in course curriculum of students right from the high school. And people need to be sensitized about the subject through seminars, discussions, and other means. So we should make our young students not just responsible citizens, but we should tell them environmentally responsible citizens. So this is where I think we need to make changes. We had a function at Punjab Agricultural University about 2 months ago, and the health minister, Professor Lakshmikanta Chawla, she was there, and she said something very interesting. She said, you know, there was a time when during the summer people come home and they will want to take a shower with fresh water, cold water. Now everybody is taking showers, whether regardless of the season, whether it's summer, whether it's winter, with hot water. So we have to sensitize, we have to change our habits somehow. And it is small things sometimes that we neglect. And we were happier then, we were healthier then in many ways. So I think we need to change that. Air conditioning, I grew up in a village, there was no air conditioning, there was no electricity, let alone no television. So there was very little energy use. Now we have energy use in villages. It has increased tremendously in cities, of course. So we have to reduce the energy use. So I think we can help ourselves by changing our habits, and so we will have a conference in the first week of February on preparing agriculture for climate change. And I have put a few brochures at the end on a table, so if somebody is interested in picking up one. So I think this is how we prepare ourselves for climate change and to combat the impacts of climate change. So again, I thank you, Professor Swaminathan, for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I find we are nearing the closing time, but if there are one or two questions, quickly. Dr. Sumansai.
This is a question to Minister Thomas. Mr. Minister, we know that one of the worst impacts of climate change are going to be in rain-fed areas. Would your government be willing to make substantial policy shifts to make it favorable for rain-fed areas? For example, shifting the huge agricultural subsidy that goes primarily to irrigated areas to shift it preferentially to rain-fed areas. Can your government imagine doing that in a relatively short span of time?
Agriculture is basically a state subject, and we are helping the states in the agriculture sector. Our major project is the RKVY, where states can formulate any scheme connected with agriculture, and we give assistance on the basis of 3 years of the projects in agriculture implemented by every state. There are other schemes also connected with the Government of India's plans, and many of these schemes can be made use of by the state governments.
Question? Yes, please.
I think the essence of the question is that we are incentivizing crops which generally take huge amount of water, and therefore that is what I think Dr. Sahai was attempting to say. And there are crops which can be grown with much less water, but which can sustain. That's millets and things. And in the PDS system, there is simply no incentive available for the crops which exist and which can be grown on much less water. So I think, is government prepared to shift its thinking on those lines?
See, ICAR is one of the major organizations of the Government of India. They are formulating a number of schemes and seeds which are especially suitable for the climate change occasions. So we are slowly coming into that area. The research institutions under the Government of India and even the private entrepreneurs are also seriously looking into this problem.
I would like to add to what the Minister has stated. You talked about the millets, I agree with you. In fact, in the National Advisory Council chaired by Srimati Sonia Gandhi, in the new food security system with the legal rights, it has been suggested, apart from wheat and rice, millets, whichever is grown in an area, it may be ragi in Karnataka, Madhuva in Uttaranchal, or bajra or jowar, they should also be included. In fact, it has been even suggested they should be provided at 1 rupee per kilogram in order to at least induce more people to consume those kinds of grains. The other question Dr. Suman Sahai asked about, the Minister has stated that all the various schemes, very largely funded schemes, Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, National Food Security Mission, National Horticulture Mission, these are all really the programs are developed by the state governments. And those states which have large unirrigated area, he says they should give priority to them apart from the irrigated area. This is one of the problems in agriculture, and the state and center responsibility being a largely state subject. I think now we are coming nearly, unless anybody has very important. Yes, Dr. Chelappi.
I was wondering if the Minister could briefly respond on the Food Security Act, whether the nutritional security is integrally thought through, because often our food security remains limited to food grains and not looking at pulses and other protein requirements that the poor definitely face. So if you are really ensuring through the PDS a system to reach grains, what about the other nutritional needs?
Ensuring food security to the entire population of this country itself is a big challenge. As you are aware, we have got a TPDS system by which Government of India is supplying food grains, sugar and kerosene to the state governments for public distribution. So the main responsibility to the Government of India at present is to make available the food grains, and the distribution is with the state governments and local bodies. Even in that system, we find a lot of problems, and our TPD system is not functioning as we wish. So one of the major challenges, as NSE has given some directions, we want the food security, and the President address, Honorable Rashtrapati has said, we will be supplying 25 kilograms of food grains at the rate of 30 rupees per card. That itself is a challenge. Suppose what should be the BPL, below the poverty level? There is a dispute between the state and the Planning Commission. It is not we decide, the Planning Commission decides. Whether it is 25 kilograms or 35 kilograms, and whether the BPL strength as at present envisaged by the Planning Commission is about 5.62 crores of families, whether it may go up beyond 12 crores families. This is a big challenge before us. That we have to find out a solution. And food production in India mainly depends on climate. If you look at the last 3-4 years, there was a shortage of production. In the last 2 years, we had a bumper crop, and some time back, when I was traveling the flight from Cochin to Delhi, somebody congratulated me and my cabinet senior colleague Pawarji that there is a good rain, so there will be bumper production. But we had nightmares when there's a good production. We don't know how to store it. Storage itself is a big problem for us. We don't have enough policy for that. We don't have enough programs. So that is one part regarding food grains. Then nutritional food supply is something which you dream about, but then coming to the nutritional products, a lot of things has to be done, especially in animal husbandry. So these are some of the areas where we are giving a new thrust. But this can go slowly with very in-depth thinking about how to implement all those things. So it's such a big country like ours. This challenge is not small, but we are serious about it.
Thank you all very much. I think the last question about nutrition security, generally the cost of protein is going up in our country because the demand and supply gap is nearly 4 million tons between what. This is why I proposed the starting of 50,000 pulses villages during this year, for which Finance Minister was kind enough to provide some funds. But it has not taken off in the way it should be done. We have to make a major effort because if you look at all the three, milk is a very important component, price is high, pulses cost is price. So the cost of protein in the diet is going up and that is not very desirable for the people. Now if you make a few concluding remarks, taking advantage of quickly.
So one point which that is Dr. Kang was mentioning about the change of syllabus in the schools. I personally feel with experience that there should be a look at the syllabus changes in the agricultural colleges, agriculture engineering, hydrology, introduction of hydrology into the civil engineering system. I think this is one area which will bring in a new dimension in getting people who are exposed to this type of technologies when they join the job market. These type of people are not available now. We find that hydrology is a subject in the postgraduate level only run in 3 or 4 institutions meaningfully. I think we will require large number of people in this sector. I think this is one area which has to be one of the aspects for mainstreaming. It was discussed in the last dialogue. We could not ask this question to Professor Abhijit Sen, but I think we should look at it very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Professor Kang agrees with you. It's a very important topic. Before I make some general comments about today's meeting, taking advantage of the presence of Professor R.B. Singh, who is the incoming president of the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, I want to thank the Minister for his suggestion that important areas where there are differences among viewpoint, like endosulfan, the scientific community should come forward to guide the government. Recently, the Minister for Environment asked all the science academies in the country to jointly come forward with some recommendation on BT, genetically modified crops in general, but BT brinjal in particular. Unfortunately, I am a member of the scientific community. I am a fellow of most of these academies. I must confess the academies didn't do a good job because I think our academies are not yet used to. In the United Kingdom, no important scientific decision will be taken without consulting the Royal Society. In the United States, no important decision will be taken without consulting the National Academy of Sciences. In our country, the Minister has just started this process. I am happy to see that important areas where there is public concern, public differences, the Academy should provide objective guidance. So if you can take up when you become the President, the one question of the endosulfan, he is becoming the President next month. The other is the very large program of sustainable agriculture under the National Action Plan. It is a project which I saw involves more than 1 lakh of crores, very large amount. This morning, Mr. Jairam Ramesh rightly said, many of our programs and missions are all top down. It is prepared in bhavans and so on. there is not widespread consultation. We can't afford to pay in this country over a lakh of crores for a program on sustainable agriculture without debate and discussion. The minister should again refer it to the academy, and the academy should call a wide hold of stakeholders, including farmers' representation, scientists, agriculture university vice chancellors, general universities, and so on. That will be very important, I think, because most of these missions have been prepared entirely in the ministries. But they are exceedingly important for the country as a whole, because today our major message is how do you involve the grassroots in policy making. In that context, I have 4 brief points. One is, how do we really institutionalize this feedback between the grassroots and the policy maker? Fortunately, in our country, we have the institution of Panchayati Raj institution with now 50% women's representations. Although there are many deficiencies and difficulties, I have found that particularly where women are the sarpanches, those panchayats have had very good priorities. I think we should strengthen them. We should visualize them, the original role which Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi had a great hope that these panchayats will be the grassroots level democratic structures which will provide continuously a feedback to the higher. So we have recommended from the MSRF, we have started a program called training one woman, one male member of every panchayat as climate risk managers. These climate risk managers, the woman and male member of the panchayat, they will be the science and art of managing climate risks, whether drought, whether it is flood, or whether it's sea level rise, or whether it is a good weather, how to maximize the benefits. I think we require more organic linkages, some kind of umbilical cord, symbiotic linkages between the Panchayat Raj institutions and the state government on the one hand and the government of India on the other. Without it, I don't. Wherever, for example, group cooperation has been generated, we talked about water security this morning, the Secretary of Water Resources was mentioning, but in Maharashtra and so on, where there are very difficult areas with very low rainfall, 600 millimeters, 700 millimeters, where there are Pani Panchayats, or the people have got together in the village as a group. They have been, for example, the Hivare Bazaar, for which the first national water prize was given. One Popatrao Pawar is the Sarpanch. They have mobilized the whole people, and so the power, the people power as it is called, I think that should be mobilized, and the best way is through Panchayat. My second point is that we have this large, that's why I requested the Minister to refer the over 1 lakh crore sustainable agriculture project to the academy and so on, further suggestions. You may accept suggestion, you may not accept, but the fact remains, before so much of public money is spent, it is important to get the best possible advice which is there. Now, we have a large program in terms of Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program. The law itself or the act itself says it will be only unskilled work, when unskilled work. Although from the National Commission on Farmers we suggested that at least in the case of women running an Anganwadi or running a creche or cooking the noon meal, these should also be included in but at that time it was decided to restrict it only labor. It's not if you read the act, it will say it's unskilled labor, and so minimum wage and so on.